The courtroom was silent, until laughter broke the air. A cruel, echoing laugh that made the man sitting in the defendant's chair lower his head. "Nice medals," the judge sneered, adjusting his glasses. "Did you buy those online, Mr. Carter?" Daniel Carter didn't answer. His hands rested on his lap, fingers interlocked, knuckles white. Beside him, his 6-year-old daughter Lily clutched a hand-drawn American flag, her blue eyes searching his face with confusion. She didn't understand why everyone was laughing. Daniel was a single dad, a former Navy veteran, and a man who had already faced more battles than most people could imagine, both in uniform and after taking it off. Daniel had served his country for 15 years. He'd been deployed 4 times, twice to the Middle East and twice for humanitarian missions. He had been a communications officer, responsible for coordinating rescue operations and ensuring his team made it home alive. But when a roadside explosion claimed his best friend's life and left him with a permanent limp and damaged hearing, Daniel's military career ended abruptly. The uniform he wore every day was replaced by hospital gowns and therapy sessions. Months later, his wife, unable to handle the trauma and uncertainty, left him and their daughter. Daniel was suddenly a single dad, struggling to raise Lily while battling the ghosts of his past. He worked odd jobs, janitorial shifts, construction, and delivery driving, anything to keep food on the table. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, society never saw him as more than a broken man with a limp and a shadowed gaze. One morning, while driving Lily to school, Daniel was pulled over for a broken tail light. The officer noticed a small case of medals on the dashboard. "Where do you get those?" the officer asked, suspicion in his tone. Daniel replied calmly, "They're mine. Navy service." The officer frowned. "I doubt that. These look fake." Within hours, Daniel was taken into custody for impersonating a decorated veteran, a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. His public defender warned him that unless he could produce proof from the Navy, he could face heavy fines or even jail time. But the Navy had long misplaced his service records during a system transfer, and without official documentation, Daniel was labeled a fraud. The courtroom was filled that day, reporters, military officials, and curious onlookers. They called him a liar, a disgrace, a man trying to gain sympathy with fake honors. Lily sat quietly in the front row, swinging her small legs beneath the bench. She didn't know what fraud meant, only that her daddy was sad. Judge Reynolds smirked as he looked at Daniel's worn green shirt. "You expect this court to believe a man like you earned these?" he said, lifting one of the medals between his fingers. "These are pristine, too clean to be real." The courtroom erupted in laughter. Some officers snickered. A few even shook their heads in mock pity. Daniel's throat tightened. He had endured bullets, explosions, and nightmares, but this humiliation cut deeper than any wound. "I didn't fake anything," he said quietly. "Those medals are real. I earned every one of them." Judge Reynolds waved dismissively. "Then where's your proof, Mr. Carter?" "I lost my records during the system update. I've been trying to." "Convenient," the judge interrupted, leaning back with a grin. "Another lost hero, right?" Just as the judge prepared to dismiss the case, the courtroom doors swung open. Everyone turned. A woman in a crisp white Navy uniform strode in, her chest covered with medals, her cap gleaming under the lights. Her presence commanded silence. "Admiral Laura Benson," she announced, handing her credentials to the bailiff. The judge raised a brow. "Admiral Benson, what brings you here?" She glanced at Daniel, then at the medals on the table. Her face remained stoic, but her eyes softened. "I'm here because I recognize that man," she said firmly. "And those medals, they're not fake." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge looked stunned. "You know him?" "Yes," she said, stepping forward. "Lieutenant Daniel Carter served under my command during Operation Silver Dawn. He was responsible for saving 46 soldiers when our communications were destroyed. He volunteered to stay behind enemy lines to repair the relay system, while injured." The judge blinked, speechless. Admiral Benson turned to Daniel. "Lieutenant Carter, it's been too long." For the first time in years, Daniel's eyes welled with tears. He stood and saluted her. "Ma'am." The admiral returned the salute, her voice steady but emotional. "You don't need to prove anything. The Navy remembers its heroes, even when the paperwork doesn't. The room fell silent. Reporters who had been ready to mock now scrambled to take notes. The officers who had laughed now stared at the floor in shame. Judge Reynolds cleared his throat awkwardly. "Well, it seems there's been a misunderstanding." Admiral Benson turned to him sharply. "A misunderstanding? This man risked everything for his country, and you humiliated him in front of his daughter." Her words struck like thunder. The judge stammered, of course, the case is dismissed." But Admiral Benson wasn't done. She walked to Lily and knelt down, smiling warmly. "Your daddy is a hero, sweetheart. Don't ever forget that." Lily's small voice trembled. "I know he is." She handed the Admiral her crayon-drawn American flag. "I made this for him." The Admiral looked at it for a long moment, then turned to Daniel. "With your permission, Lieutenant, I'd like to hang this in the Hall of Honor at Naval Command." Daniel nodded, overcome. "It would be an honor, ma'am." By the next day, Daniel's story was everywhere. News outlets reported how a humble single-dad veteran had been wrongfully accused, and vindicated by the highest-ranking officer in the Navy. Within a week, he received an official apology from the Department of Defense. His records were restored, and he was awarded a special commendation for his service and perseverance. But Daniel didn't seek fame or glory. All he wanted was a peaceful life for Lily, a life free of judgment and pain. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Lily climbed onto his lap. "Daddy," she whispered, "are you happy now?" Daniel smiled, brushing her hair aside. "I am now, sweetheart. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs someone brave enough to stand for it. This story isn't just about medals, recognition, or military ranks. It's about dignity, truth, and the unseen battles people fight every day." Daniel Carter was mocked, humiliated, and accused, but he held on to his integrity. And when the world turned its back, someone with courage stepped forward to say, "I remember." Because true honor isn't proven by paperwork, it's earned through sacrifice, love, and the strength to keep going even when nobody believes in you. Never judge someone by what they wear, what they've lost, or what they've been through. You never know the story behind the scars they carry.